scary room.
We are
The Scary Sibs.
Hello, mortals, and welcome to Scary Sibs.
Summer is just winding down, and boy, was it a hot one. Some days could have given hell a run for its money, and I should know since I went to hell briefly after I died. So, is the lust real, or is that just a story? Asking for a friend. I hate it here. Those were, fun times. But then, God decided my sins were due to ignorance, not malice, so he pulled me out. Still can't get into heaven, but,
Yes, and now I'm stuck here with you in my own personal hell. Anyway, the subject of today's video is just about as the weather, or brother's afterlife. We are, of course, talking about hot takes.
For those unaware, a hot take is a controversial opinion that's not consistent with what the majority thinks, and horror, being as subjective as any art form, has plenty, and so do we.
In this video, we'll share with you 10 hot takes that Brother and I have about horror films or franchises. Please note that these are in no particular order.
Also, these are only our opinions and no way a definitive critique of these movies. I feel like much disclaimer that is, and we're already going to get enough heat in the comments as it is.
Heat. Good one.
Good what?
You know, heat. Because hot takes.
I'm not following.
My God, hell must have completely burnt out what few brain cells you had. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Here are 10 of our horror hot takes.
Hot take number 10. It Follows is overrated. A young woman named Jay meets a seemingly nice man and goes on a date with him, which she's hoping will lead to sex. To her delight, it does. However, her night of romance is cut short when the man reveals that by sleeping with him, she inherited a terrifying curse. This curse will cause a mysterious entity that only she can see to slowly stalk her, and unless she can pass it on to someone else, she will meet a gruesome end at the hands of this thing.
This film is beloved and almost always mentioned in discussions of the best horror films of the 21st century. I'm not saying it is a terrible movie. I'm saying it doesn't deserve the hype that it gets. The concept is original, I'll give it that. The execution is a bit flawed. The monster is walking toward the person at all times, but does seem to uphold to physical barriers. Why not trap it? Why not try to travel farther away than a simple drive down the road? Why did the guy in the beginning have intercourse with our main girl to get the curse away from himself, yet still hang out with her? Inviting the monster to be right next to him when it kills her. I feel like the characters in this movie ruined it for me. They made far too many dumb decisions.
I disagree, sister. I actually found this movie to be effectively tense and scary. The thought of a monster constantly following you, knowing that eventually it will catch up with you no matter where you go, is horrifying. Add to that the fact that only you can see it, and it can look like anyone, so you never know who you can trust.
Well, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. I still don't gel with the supernatural STD, essentially. Reminds me of one of my trips to the doctor. Nothing is working, doctor. I've tried the patch, I've tried pills, I've even tried pagan rituals, and nothing can cure me of Tim.
So sorry. This is beyond our ability to cure.
I almost this.
Go away.
I can't. You have Tim. May I prescribe you some painkillers to cope?
Please.
So, exactly how did you cure Tim?
Oh, I called the cops, and he went to jail. Turns out he wasn't a disease, just a regular stalker.
So, What you're saying is that entire flashback was completely pointless and had nothing to do with It Follows whatsoever?
Basically. Take number 9. As Above, So Below is a great movie. This film follows a young scholar named Scarlett who is in search of the legendary Philosopher's Stone. She discovers that the stone is likely in an off-limits area of the catacombs in Paris, and she recruits a group of adventure seekers to take her there. While exploring, the group comes across increasingly disturbing and inexplicable things. This film is widely unpopular, with a Rotten Tomatoes score of only 4.6 out of 10. However, it stands as one of our favorite modern horror movies.
What we like about this film is that it actively tries to do something different. Its plot is unlike anything else in the found footage genre, and the treasure hunting aspect adds a bit of fun to the proceedings. Also, the characters are fleshed out and likable, unlike the myriad of films where the main cast are nameless monster fodder you couldn't care less about. This one also ranks high on our list of found footage movies, and in fact it did feature rather highly in our recent video on the subject.
Yes, not to say we didn't find a few flaws in the film, but overall we feel very strongly that this movie is way better than it gets credit for.
Hot take number 8. The Saw franchise actually has a really good plot. Starting out in the early 2000s when the so-called torture porn genre was at the height of its popularity, the Saw franchise follows the crimes of the Jigsaw Killer and his followers, who place their victims in a series of elaborate traps intended to either punish them for some kind of sin or vice, or force them to push themselves to prove how much they value life or want to survive. At its surface, this franchise may seem like just another mindless gore fest. However, there's actually a lot going on beneath the surface that's surprisingly deep.
The Jigsaw Killer's real name is John Kramer. He was a normal man expecting his first child when a robbery leaves him childless, depressed, and helpless. To add on top of all this, John also develops terminal brain cancer. It is at this point he decides he's going to punish people who have wronged him or wronged others, making them play these twisted games the franchise is known for. The thing is that he is truly trying to make a point during all of the madness, and he never kidnaps innocent or good people. This is not to say they deserve the torturous, twisted punishment he lays out for them, but it is hard to root for many of his victims. The whole thing is very deep if you pay attention. It's not just the gore fest it is made out to be.
Hot take number 7. The demon in Insidious isn't scary. This 2010 supernatural thriller centers around the Lambert family, who discover that their son Dalton has the ability to astral project in his sleep. Not only does this cause his soul to get lost outside of his body, but it also attracts the attention of several supernatural entities. For the most part, these entities are terrifying and nightmarish. That is, except for one, the so-called lipstick-faced demon.
Wow, this isn't to say that the movie itself isn't scary. As stated, some of the spirits, particularly the old lady in black, are the stuff of nightmares, as are the music and concept. Unfortunately, this main demon brings the scare level down several pegs, as he looks like the sort of cheap knockoff costume you would buy in a Halloween clearance sale on October 30th.
Now, we've seen several terrifying demon designs recently, and honestly, we do have to commend them for actually showing the demon in its true form, instead of just making it look like a person. Looking at you, Evil Dead remake. But I just wish that they would have come up with a better design, you know? Even going with the traditional Goatman route. I don't know, this one just didn't do it for us. Come in.
Hey, Sibs, what's up?
Hello, Jeff.
We thought that restraining order was here.
Hey, I just wanted to come by and see what you thought of my scary new look.
For the last time, you are not scary. Almost as unscary as the Insidious demon.
You mean my brother? Clown.
Talent must run in the family, or lack thereof.
Oh, come on, guys, that can be scary. What if I do this?
That was just annoying. And your breath? Dings, what did you eat?
Mostly, roadkill possums. Anyway, smell you later. Gotta go scare some mortals.
That guy.
Slovenly even for a demon, isn't he?
Indeed. Anyway, let's move forward to our next hot take. Hot take number 6. God, I was running my ear. That's good.
No, get out!
Take number 6. The over-the-top elements in later Paranormal Activity films actually work. Ah yes, Paranormal Activity. The franchise that took the world by storm in the late 2000s and early 2010s and repopularized the found footage genre. Yet, as popular as this franchise was, there was one uniform complaint about the films. They were all very samey. The first 4 Paranormal Activity films all play out the exact same way. Very little happens for most of the runtime except for a few minor haunts, and then everyone dies in the last 2 minutes. The franchise would majorly jump the shark, however, in the last 2 films, the marked ones and the Ghost Dimension, introducing over-the-top elements like superpowers and time travel. For some, these changes were dumb and unneeded, but in my opinion, they were exactly the shot in the arm this stale franchise needed.
This is one of those hot takes that is even burning within the crypt, as I respectfully disagree with brother. While The Marked Ones isn't a terrible film on the whole, the ending completely fell apart. It was hard to follow and seemed to totally go off the deep end. And don't even get me started on the Ghost Dimension. They seem to have lost their edge on haunts and tried to shoot for the stars, but sorely missed.
Well, while I do agree that the Ghost Dimension leapt too far into full-blown fantasy, the Marked Ones, in my opinion, had just the right amount of stupid to be entertaining. Sure, a climax involving gangsters blowing away witches with shotguns and time-traveling cabinets may not be the stuff of high art. It's fun and an entertaining way to end the movie, and as stated before, when most of the rest of the movies consist of nothing's happening, everyone's dead, credits. A little bit of silly camp and crazy action is welcome into the mix.
Hot take number 5. Oculus is hard to follow. This movie follows the story of siblings Tim and Kaylee, who experienced some really weird things growing up that culminated in Tim killing their father in perceived self-defense. Now, as adults, they are trying to reconnect after Tim is released from a mental institution. Kaylee is obsessed with trying to figure out the truth of what happened when they were kids and prove her family innocent. The culprit that Kaylee blames for their troubles is an antique mirror that she believes hosts an evil, supernatural being.
This film, by legendary horror director Mike Flanagan, is as good and chilling as his other notable works and contains his typical brand of supernatural psychological horror. The story and mystery here are also intriguing, leaving you guessing exactly how everything will unfold. The problem, however, is that this movie constantly flashes back to the siblings' childhood and then suddenly back to the present, almost seemingly seamless and without transition. And sometimes it would even get to the point where I wasn't even quite sure exactly which timeline we were in, and at times it would appear that the adult characters were even interacting with their child selves.
This constant flashing back and forth made this movie sometimes hard to follow and led to a lot of confusing moments.
Hey, Pastels.
A lot of confusing moments that, in our opinion, disrupted the flow of the narrative. Don't get us wrong, this was a good movie. I just wish they didn't go so overboard with the flash.
Facts.
Or at least provide more natural transitions into them.
Hot take number 4. The Witch is a hot mess. The Witch, stylized as the Vivitch, since apparently W's weren't a thing back in the 1700s, was another entry in A24's horror catalog, which, as you'll see, is very hit and miss with us. It follows the story of a Puritan family who have been exiled from their settlement due to the father's extremist religious beliefs. Now fending for themselves in the wilderness, the family are at the mercy of nature, and perhaps another more malevolent force living in the woods with them.
To be honest, we were so excited when this film was released, as you do not see very many horror films about witches. Perhaps that is part of why we were so disappointed in the outcome. There is, of course, the very old-timey dialogue, which, while we can appreciate the dedication to historical accuracy, made the film hard to follow and understand. Though, of course, the major problem is that the film condemns the paranoia and fear of the time. Is fair. The Salem witch trials were indeed a dark mark on our country's history. However, it undermines this by also having there be real witches that are evil and want to harm them.
This film tried to have its cake and eat it too. It wanted to be a profound commentary on religious paranoia and how backwards beliefs can ruin one's life. But then it turned around and said, oh wait, you were right, these evil things are real and you should be afraid of them, but shame on you for doing so? This made the movie come across as a bit confused about what it wanted to be or what it wants to say. They should have picked one or the other, either an entirely message-free monster movie about evil witches, or a psychological thriller without any real supernatural threats and only the family's paranoid beliefs carrying them. Instead, they tried to do both. Scary Crypt's popular today. Come in.
I call upon the spirits that dwell within this crypt. Right here, lady. We physically manifest constantly. You don't have to call upon us. There you are. Force of habit, you understand.
What do you want?
Nothing much. I just need to drain the energy of two souls to perform a spell to turn my hair a vibrant red.
Have you heard of dye?
You expect me to soil my luscious locks with chemicals?
If you don't plan spray, I'm really gonna do something you're not gonna like. Now get out of here before we...
Abracadabra and skittily boom! Give me the life force of this violent soul! Now, brother. One must not judge this witch for living her life as she chooses.
Get her off of me!
Brother, so narrow-minded and fear-driven. You're no better than the family in the movie.
She tried to kill me!
Well, perhaps you deserve it, you shameful soul. Witch hot take number 1. Vacuum cleaners are not suitable broomsticks. This stereotype in pop culture has always frustrated me. You see a witch who lost her broom or simply wants to get with the times, so she grabs a vacuum cleaner instead and flies around on it. Not only do vacuum cleaners not have the proper aerodynamics for flight, but they are much harder to enchant than brooms. And I am tired of this inaccurate cliche always popping up and... in my defense...
Not a word. Just read the next entry while I get a lock installed on the crypt. Oh, Christ, it's like the first aid kit all over again. You are the worst person to be around when almost dying.
Well, you did sort of.
Next entry.
Hot take number 3. Midsummer is better than Hereditary. Studio A24, along with director Ari Aster, made 2 very successful modern horror movies, Hereditary and Midsummer. Both of these films have their merits, and they are very different films in almost every other way, other than both being on the artsy side and containing cult themes. Hereditary Hereditary is hailed by many as the scariest movie ever and an instant classic. Whereas Midsummer, while not hated or universally disliked, doesn't get nearly the attention or recognition it deserves. In our opinion, however, it is the superior film.
Now, none of this is to say that Hereditary is in any way a bad film. However, it is, in our opinions, just a teensy bit overrated. This film is often hailed as one of the greatest horror films of all time, but Sister and I felt it was simply okay. Honestly, we felt Hereditary tried to be too many things at once. A family drama, a supernatural thriller, a cult movie, etc. And just ended up feeling all over the place. Midsummer, on the other hand, had a much tighter story that didn't feel needlessly padded out. Plus, it picked a lane and stuck with it.
Short, we just felt that these two very strong films, Midsummer is the better of the two for being a tighter script and containing more of a focused narrative.
Hot take number 2. The ending of The Mist sucks. So, I want you to imagine for a moment that you're at a theme park and you see this awesome roller coaster that just looks so fun. You get on it and boy, you're just having the time of your life as you soar down the drops and around the loop-de-loops without a care in the world. Then, right as you're about to step off, the ride operator comes up, punches you in the gut as hard as he can. While you're doubled over in pain, you forget about all the fun you just had and focus only on the suffering. That was our experience watching The Mist.
This movie, from the mind of Stephen King, is a harrowing story about a man named David who takes his son Billy to the grocery store following a devastating storm that hit their town. While inside the store, a mysterious mist engulfs everything, and the townspeople have reason to believe there is something menacing inside the mist. The hysteria grows as all the people stuck in the store begin to turn on one another. Tensions rise, and David has to make several difficult choices in the name of what is best for his son.
This movie is actually great most of the way through. The acting is strong. The creatures, while not rendered with the most convincing CGI, are still creative. And I do love the tense, horrifying thought of being trapped in a building with a community of people slowly losing their minds. It really shows just how badly society can collapse in a disaster situation.
The thing most people remember from this film is its controversial ending. It should go without saying that a spoiler warning is in effect for this movie if you haven't seen it. So, near the end of the film, David, his son, and a handful of still sane survivors escape the store and begin to drive away, attempting to find a way out of the mist. After a while, the car they're in runs out of gas. Determined not to allow the creatures to eat them alive, they collectively make the decision for David to shoot all of them, which he does, including his son Billy. Almost immediately after this happens, the military rolls in to rescue any survivors.
Our issue with this ending is not that it's a downer. As horror fans, we've seen our fair share of those. No, our issue comes from the fact that this decision is wildly out of character for our protagonists, who, up until now, have shown amazing resolve and will to survive. But now, when faced with the slightest inconvenience, they just immediately give up and decide to kill themselves. I would think that they would at least try to continue on foot for a little while. I know a lot of people tout this ending as gutsy and impactful, and granted it is both of those things, but at the same time, we felt as though they could have given us a crusher ending that also makes sense for the characters. This one just seemed forced and nonsensical. I mean, seriously, making such a rash decision at the slightest inconvenience? How dumb and unrealistic, really. Sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to check my Instagram and... Oh, man. The battery ran out and I can't find the charger. Guess it's time to get a new phone.
Sister? It was over here. You literally had to look 5 feet in front of you.
No! No! It's dead! And for what? No! No!
There.
Hot take number 1. The Ring is a really boring movie. This 2002 American remake of the Japanese film Ringu centers on a cursed videotape that contains eerie scenery and off-putting vibes. After someone watches the tape, they get a phone call stating that they will die in 7 days, and spoiler alert, they do. The film follows a woman who has the misfortune of watching the tape, forcing her to try to uncover its mystery and put a stop to it before her time is up.
This film certainly has a terrifying concept, and Samara has gone down as one of the scariest horror villains of the modern age. We simply wish the movie around her was a bit better. For the most part, the film simply isn't scary and is actually somewhat dull, as it mainly just focuses on the main character going around talking to people and trying to figure out where the tape came from. I wish this film was a bit more like The Grudge, where we get to see other past victims of the curse and see a bit more of exactly what Samara can do. That would have made this movie a lot creepier and more interesting.
Yes, besides, I watched that tape this morning and nothing happened to me, so that curse is a big crock of...
Oh, so it's not really broken.
Guess not.
Who on earth is that?
No idea. It says unknown caller. You know I don't take those.
Yeah, but don't you think it might be a... Never mind.
Just got a text. It was from the same number. It says 7 days. Psst. Spam callers sending me nonsense.
I don't think it was a spam caller, sister. I think it was oh, forget it. Let's just say it'll be very interesting around here in a week.
And those were our biggest horror hot takes. I know some of you out there agree or disagree with some of these takes, so let us know in the comments.
Until next time, I'm Scary Brew.
And I am Scary Sis.
And I am a scary demon.
And a fearsome witch.
Get out! Shoot!
Wait a minute. Didn't I just turn you into a skeleton earlier?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ending this freak show of an episode. I'm Scary Bro, she's Scary Sis, blah blah blah, Scary Sibs. I need a vacation. I'm not saying that a 9-circle layout is inherently a bad system, alright? But it's not exactly the most efficient one. It's wasted space and using more personnel and resources than necessary. Alright. Look at mortal prisons. We don't have separate facilities for each crime. I mean, granted, sure, we have minimum security and maximum security, but we don't send people to separate buildings based off of theft, kidnapping, murder, etc. It's just inefficient and wasteful. I think there should just be one hell divided up between your mild sinners and your major sinners, all on the same plane. That would make it easier to manage, and you'd be able to use those other 8 circles for other things, like demon housing and skull and pitchfork stores. I mean, I'm just saying, pass it along to the devil and see what he says. I'm sure he'd be open to the idea of...
Please, shut the f*** up.
Hell sucks.